Today I have little fear because I put in the work and I've earned fear's respect. At least that's the way I look at it. Today I want to teach you how to slay fear and make it work for you. Some words from Jack Canfield to consider. He says, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And he couldn't be more right, man. I mean, think about that for a second. Everything you want is right on the other side of fear. So why is it so difficult for us to get there? We have such a hard time facing our fears. Fear will rob you of that opportunity to have a wonderful life. It'll keep you from achieving your goals. It'll lull you into this false sense of security where it's warm and fuzzy and comfortable and predictable. Fear doesn't want you to succeed. It smashes your will to move forward. So what do you put in place to overcome the fear? There's got to be something. Cornell University had this great study, and they talked about how during our adolescent years, we're affected by fear the most, and it can stick with us. There are other studies that talk about the amygdala, the part of the brain when that fight or flight response is triggered. So how do we get through that? I want to take you on a journey with me and teach you about the 3 principles I utilize to overcome all the fears and challenges I faced throughout my life. The first principle is reframing your fear. Don't let fear trick you. You can manage it and you can overcome it, but you have to reframe the way you look at it and put processes in place to help you get through it. The next principle is building a strategy. It's like anything else in life, you have to build a strategy and attack it by breaking it down into manageable parts, creating small wins, and eventually they gain momentum to get you to win over that fear. When you face the fear, you have to take a deep breath. You have to visualize, ground yourself, and work your plan. And the last principle is you have to put in the work. Yes, you're not going to just get a present one day from Santa and, oh boy, I've overcome my fear. You have to face it. You have to put in the work. But if you put in the work and allocate time to training and educating yourself about that fear, read books, watch videos, surround yourself with others that have overcome those fears, you'll eventually get there. So get started. Oprah Winfrey has this great saying. She says, whatever you fear most has no power. It's the fear that has the power. And if you allow fear to seep into your mind and overtake your thoughts, it'll take away your life. And she's right. Oprah has overcome so many challenges in her life, and she's accomplished a lot of the things through breaking through walls of fear, like most successful people have in their lives. So use her as an example to inspire you. I didn't start off using these 3 principles: reframe, build a strategy, put in the work. They were learned along the way. So let me digress a bit to my childhood. When I was a child, I was terrified. Everything was terrifying. Whether it was on the way to school and avoiding gangbangers, or at school and avoiding bullies, on the way home from school, avoiding drug dealers. There was so much fear in my life. Uncertainty, always a challenge. I was born to 15-year-old parents, mostly raised by my 15-year-old mother, living off food stamps and standing the occasional food line. Many nights we ate rice and brown gravy. If I wanted dessert, it would be sugar bread. It was challenging. I was homeless for a period of time, living on different family members' and friends' sofas. How do you get through those challenges at a young age? So as we're milling through life, we end up at this apartment in a rough side of town, and I get surrounded by 5 boys. And these 5 boys take my toy, they throw me to the ground, and they start beating on me. They're punching me, they're kicking me. Relentless, terrifying. So what seemed like an eternity, I was probably kicked and punched hundreds of times. I thought to myself, am I going to die? So I lay there in a curled up ball, scared to death, and all of a sudden it stops and the laughing starts to fade. This adrenaline, this thought came over me, I can't believe I'm alive. So I lay there for a second and somehow I muddle up the courage to jump up and run to my apartment. I get to the apartment, fall in, and this emotion just floods out of me. I'm hysterical, bloodied and battered, crying. Mom comes home, trying to console me. We didn't call the police because they had better things to do in that neighborhood, and I'd been jumped before. There's nothing they could do about it. So I'm sitting there telling her, Mom, I don't understand why people pick on me, why they beat me up, they make fun of my clothes. I'm too fat, I'm too ugly. Why doesn't anybody like me? And I remember trying to console me and comfort me and tell me it was them, it wasn't me, but I couldn't hear her. And I told her I didn't want to be here anymore. So just think about that for a second. In a very short period of time, I went from, am I going to die today, to I can't believe I'm alive, to I don't want to be here. What an enormous responsibility for a young person. What do you do to get through those challenges? I would eventually put these principles into play, not knowing it at the time, by reframing the way I looked at fear. I was tired of being beat up. I was tired of being a victim. So I reframed the way I looked at it. I started searching out groups of kids that I could make friends with. My mom did the best she could to keep me in the school district. I would eventually join sports, build a strategy to lose weight. I lost 40 pounds. And I put in the work. Hell Week in football, running, bike riding, anything I could to get in shape and build my confidence. And it worked, utilizing those 3 principles. I was eventually out on my own at the age of 15 years old and would work many jobs, be homeless for a time, until I met a mentor that would eventually change my life forever. This mentor's name was Ron, and he taught me what it was like to have a strong work ethic. He taught me all about accountability, no excuses, problem solving. He had me reading books. I read hundreds of books and really started to educate myself, which was critically important because I didn't have that structure when I was younger. I was in and out of school, and being on my own at a young age, I had to do all kinds of other problem solving and fear facing. School was not one of them. So as Ron mentors me and teaches me these things through life, he pushes me on to what would become a great sales career. And then that would develop into owning several businesses. And at one point in my life, I decided, it's really time for me to give back. I really want to teach people the principles I utilize to overcome my fears and challenges in life. So I went down to the local police department and had a ride along. I had been volunteering at other places, but I just happened to get this ride along because I was curious. And I was so intrigued. I was so inspired by the way I saw these officers interacting with the young people. So I joined the police academy as a reserve. And during the reserve academy, there were many things to be afraid of. The number one thing that people feared was the taser. Man, if you can imagine that pop, 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 it's like lightning sticking your finger in a socket. At least that's what you feel anyways. So most anticipated was taser day. How did I utilize my principles? Everyone else is talking about how painful it's going to be, and all the officers in there were trying to scare us, giving us all these details that were pretty gruesome and would terrify you. And I kept focusing on how I could overcome it. I studied the taser, trying to figure out, has it killed anybody statistically? Nope. Okay. What are some of the other things? How do I affect the way it runs through my body? Is there anything I can do? So I learned, there are things you can do to mitigate that. What else is there? Oh, how do you keep from screaming? Okay, so I practiced and I did some things to keep me from screaming. There was probably 5 or 6 tools I learned that I utilized, working through my principles. So taser day comes, get up there, volunteer. Yep, I'm up. Roberts? All right, yep, I want to be shot with the taser. All right, you're crazy. I get shot, they lay me down, I was quiet, I come back, no problem. So then all the other students think, wow, well, that's going to be easy. Oh, little did they know, it wasn't easy, but I had practiced. I'd utilized my principles, reframing the fear, building a strategy, and putting in the work while everyone was goofing off. So I limited my exposure to the taser scene. I watched people get up there and scream like crazy. Ah! Rolling around. It was nuts. Of course, everyone was okay, but you could tell they hadn't practiced, they hadn't studied, they hadn't put in the work. So we all made it through that, thankfully, no problem. Some of us better than others. And we moved on. I would face lots of fears and challenges in that academy, but I dealt with them the same way, systematically, utilizing my principles. I had a terrifying fear of heights. One day I'm hiking with a friend and he pulls out these ropes and gear out of the backpack and he says, hey, we're going to go hiking. I said, we ain't going hiking. He says, yeah, no, just right over here. I could tell what he was doing. He's pulling those ropes out because we're going to be climbing. I said, where are we going hiking? He said, we're going to hike up this 25-foot rock. I said, I ain't climbing that rock. He said, yeah, you're going to climb this rock. I said, man, I'm terrified of heights. He goes, I understand you're terrified of heights, but that's the point. We're going to overcome this fear you have. I said, I don't have any need to overcome that fear. I'm fine. He said, Chris, it's more about building confidence and overcoming a challenge in your life, not about climbing, but it will open you up to other opportunities. It's a lot of fun. So after a while, he wins me over in his way of thinking, and I'm up on this rock. So I climb up there, and I'm sweating, and I'm nervous, and I'm holding the rope, and about 30 minutes goes by, and finally he says, just step. I got you on belay, which means when he pulls the rope, I'm not going to fall. So I said, okay, I'm ready. And I step. Oh, man, this is great. Can I take my hands off? Yeah. Woo! All right. Awesome. Okay, I got to get my hands back on this rock. I get back down. Exhilaration when I got to the bottom. It was awesome. The confidence that just poured out of me. So I went back up the rock. I got to get up there and do it again. And then fast forward 10 years, I've climbed many mountains, fallen in crevasses, had 2,000-foot drop-offs behind me, and I've really limited the fear I have of heights, probably down to 10%. But it's done so much more for me by building my confidence. You just have to face it and work the principles. Reframe the fear, build a strategy, put in the work. I went through the training with him. He built my confidence. We put a plan together on how we're going to do it. And then I worked at it a little at a time and got through it. The Navy SEALs have this great saying, and it's embrace the suck. And that basically is to consciously accept or appreciate something that is extremely unpleasant but unavoidable to forward the progression. Navy SEALs know everything's going to suck. That's just part of their world. But they embrace it, and they use it as part of the process to move forward. They use the 3 principles in their own way, and they get through it. When you overcome fear, you open yourself up to a whole new world. It'll build confidence at an immeasurable level. Everything you want is on the other side of that door. Like Jack said, on the other side of fear. That relationship you want with the person of your dreams, the raise you always wanted but haven't been given, that dream job. It's right on the other side of that door. But forget about all that stuff. You know what else is on the other side of that door? Confidence. It's confidence waiting on the other side of that door. And that confidence will completely restructure your life. You have to face your fears, but you got to have a plan to do it. So use the 3 principles. I have a mantra in my life, and it is, I am not a victim of my environment or my circumstances, but I am the results of my actions and my attitude. And I don't have any time for fear in my life because I'm out achieving my dreams. Are you going to challenge yourself and just take one step to overcome your fear? Just make one move to build that confidence in your life? My 3 principles, when utilized, are very powerful and will change your life forever. Reframe your fear, build a strategy, and put in the work. Work through these 3 principles and achieve your dreams. I'll see you on the other side of fear. Thank you.